to you about a major success that Sri Lanka had last week was reaching, well, a milestone in its journey towards debt sustainability, which was agreeing to restructure the debt between Sri Lanka and its bilateral creditors. Yep. This news came as very good news to Sri Lanka's masses. We saw some members of the general public celebrating this news, but we know that the journey is far from over and there is much to be achieved in order for Sri Lanka to reach true debt relief and sustainability. But there is one matter, before I go into the political side of things, there is one matter that I want to discuss with you, especially given your background when it comes to an environmentalist, is that there have been some concerning matters that have propped up over the past few months and weeks regarding Sri Lanka's environmental sustainability. For example, if you take the degazetting of a portion of the Veditalathiu Nature Reserve in Vilpattu, which the Supreme Court issued a stay order from happening, and also the PUCSL, Sri Lanka's energy regulator, denying approval for the Adani Group's 484 megawatt wind power plant in Mana and Punareen, citing that the company had failed to submit important documentation and relevant documentation regarding the project, and also more recently, as uncovered by Newsfirst, an attempt to mine for valuable materials in Sri Lanka's seabed, more particularly the Afanasi Nikiting seamount, which is said to possess a lot of cobalt, a deposit of cobalt which is worth billions of dollars, because cobalt is a material which is used in electric vehicles and also batteries. We know that there has been a great push for green energy, and electricity or EV powered vehicles and EV energy has been at the forefront of the green technology revolution. So let's talk about the environmental aspect of things, Dr. Ajantha. We may have debt sustainability, we may come to a consensus with the people with the presidential election coming up and so, but if we don't have a land to reside in that is healthy, where Mother Nature is healthy, how can Sri Lankans survive with all of these happening for merely profits?
Yeah, I think what Sri Lanka needs, especially the decision makers of Sri Lanka needs to understand is, you see, development is a must. Desperate development has to happen in Sri Lanka because we are desperately in need of money. I mean, no doubt about it.
Yes.
So therefore, there are many projects that we would try out. But it does not mean that you could do it at the cost of the environment. This is the issue. Now, there are ways also to ensure that we can do development, but nevertheless protecting the environment. And one of the greatest tools that was created was the environmental impact assessment. Now, this is a must, because at the end of the day, environmental impact assessment would assess the project in terms of what is the project, what are the environmental consequences of it, how do we minimize or mitigate the negative environmental aspects, how do we monitor, what are the long-term plans, how do we issue an environmental license, so we could be observing it and monitoring it. Now, in order to do all these things, an environmental impact assessment study has to be done.
For any project?
Yes, for any project, which is medium scale or large scale. Now, I think Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe needs to understand something very, very clear. That is, when he brought the economic reform bill, where he says the environmental impact assessment must be done within 15 days. Now, what is the environment? Environment includes soil structure, water quality, it includes the air quality, it includes the forest cover, the mangroves, you know, the seabed, everything. You cannot do a study within 15 days. And then he puts the clause to say, if you do not succeed in doing it within 15 days, then he as the president has the liberty to allow the minister to take whatever the decision that he or she may take. which is totally wrong. You see, environment is for the generations to come.
Yes.
Economic development is a must, but nevertheless, we cannot do it at the cost of the environment. And you see, this is where the wisdom comes. You can't be desperate for development and do anything that you like and give the natural resources to anyone that you like. You can't do that. He may be the president, but he can't do that. The natural resources don't belong to him. It belongs to the next generation. It doesn't even belong to me. It belongs to you and to your children, not to us. And therefore, it's very, very important that we take the environmental impact assessment studies very seriously. The second thing is the EIA studies should be done by the local people. It should not be done by the company.
Not be outsourced.
Because when the company does the EIA study,
there's a vested interest.
They will spend enormous amount of money on the experts and they will get the very best report. That's not what we want.
We want an independent survey done.
Exactly. So it's very important to understand the resources. The natural, once you have destroyed the forest, you can't just overnight bring it back. Once you destroy the seabed, which we already have done through the express berth,
yes.
we
and
can't
we are yet
bring
to
it
receive
back.
full compensation for that either.
Exactly. We haven't even received anything at the moment. So this is very, very important that we, he needs to amend that bill. He has to amend the bill. He can't do it just because somebody else says, I don't have time. The foreigners would come into our country and they would definitely say, I don't have time. You need to get these papers done for us very quickly. But why should we do that? Why should we dance to their tune? This is our nation, this is our resources, we need to take care of it. And we have the human capacity, human power, human knowledge to the maximum in this country. We can't undermine that. So I think this is very important. The government must understand what sustainability is, what sustainable development is. We are talking about having a new university set up in Sri Lanka for climate change. What's the use of it if we don't understand the value of the environment?
So, is it only for optics' sake that the president seems to be leading a charge towards climate justice? He has been very vocal when it comes to climate change mitigation forums regarding climate justice for particularly smaller nations like Sri Lanka, Madagascar and so on. There are so many countries that have borne the brunt of some of the matters and some of the actions taken by larger, more developed countries. And he has been at the forefront of that fight in terms of obtaining climate justice. But when it comes to the matter of Sri Lanka, there has been very scant regard paid for it. So is it just a matter of optics to show to the world or to project to the world that yes, we are concerned about the environment, but here at home there isn't any regard or little regard paid to the environment?
Yeah, I believe that, you see, the thing is, it's good to be interested in a subject, but you need to know the know-how. You need to know the science of it. Now, for example, we are talking about climate change. Climate change is all about carbon dioxide. So, if there is a lot of carbon dioxide being emitted, right, it needs a sink for it to be absorbed which is the forest. And the ocean, two things. Ocean absorbs 30% of carbon dioxide that is released to the environment, right? So we need to protect the ocean, we need to protect the forest cover. But in the last few months and months, what we are hearing all the time is that the forest cover is dwindling because people are allowed to go into the forest and plant. And here comes the human-elephant conflict as a result of that. So what I believe is, you see, you need to know the science of it. If you do not know that the carbon dioxide, the best way to solve the carbon dioxide issue and contribute to the global scenario in reducing greenhouse gases and global warming is to enhance the forest cover, not destroy it. And on the other side, the oceans are so important. Because the oceans are absorbing so much of carbon dioxide, which is so important for Sri Lanka as well. So it's very important. I mean, as a leader, it's good that he's talking about climate change issues. As a leader, I'm happy he's trying to bring the university to Sri Lanka, which will benefit the country. But he needs to know the science of it. You know, it's not about emotions. You can't work with emotions. You need to be very practical, and you also need to know your science. And thereby, you can take the right decision. It's about wisdom. I keep saying, a leader must be wise, you know, and if you don't have good leaders with wisdom, the country is always in a mess. The country can't take the right decision, and the people are unhappy. I mean, at the moment, the worst scenario for Sri Lanka is majority of the people in this country are unhappy because they don't see good decisions being taken. We need good decisions. We need firm decisions. We need decisions that will take the country forwards, and we need to feel that push from behind. Yes, we are going forwards.
So, Dr. Ajantha, we had a very expansive conversation regarding the environment and what decisions can be taken to ensure that environmental sustainability is locked in Sri Lanka. Now, I want you to take the hat of the environmentalist off and wear that of the civil activist, because over the past few months and weeks, we have seen so many protests, trade unions that are still ongoing with their demonstrations. They have refrained from carrying out their activities, university non-academics, Gramadiladaris, there's so many others, other trade unions that have been protesting with various demands. But there seems to be no solution in sight. And eventually, it is the future generation, if you take the non-academics and teachers and principals, it's the future generation of our country that will suffer. And there will be a point where all of these we will suffer the ramifications and the consequences of all of these protests and demonstrations. So where do you think the government and also civil organizations, trade unions should come to a consensus, meet the government in the middle and reach a common consensus in order to ensure the smooth functioning of Sri Lanka's education sector or whatever sector that is currently not functioning at full capacity?
You see, when a child is crying at home, gets into a tantrum, the parents know that they want something desperately and they want attention. See, all these people who are protesting on the roadside, who are coming and actually hitting face to face, is because they want attention. They have been neglected. They desperately want decisions to be taken. You see, the moment they see a group of demonstrators coming, what they basically do is, they head on, they send the police, then they send the tear gas, then they send the water gallons, right? And even when few of us are gathering together, sometimes at Liberty Plaza, I mean, I see the tear gas, the water can, you know, why? Why do you think of your own people as enemies? When did it become so bad in this country that the government and the protesters are enemies? What is it? You know, you shouldn't think like that, because you see, all these people are protesting because they want a platform where they can discuss it. They need to come to some consensus. Good, if you don't have money right now, you can say, I don't have money right now. But there is a time period during which I will be able to provide. But it can go on percentage basis.
So it's a matter of clarity.
Exactly. And I think I have seen many times when the trade unionists, when they get the opportunity to go and talk to someone, I see their faces, they are a little bit happier. They are calm and quiet. That's because human beings are like that. They like to be heard. And the constitution of this country says everyone has the right to raise their opinion. We are born to Sri Lanka. We don't have any other country to go. We can raise our opinion only in Sri Lanka. And in this country, when we raise our opinion, if somebody comes against us and tries to force us and hit us and beat us up, what's the use? What's the use? They become more agitated. right? Eventually, because they are not facing them, because they are not discussing with them, because they are not coming to some consensus to help them, do you know what is happening is the youth are becoming aggressive. They're getting very frustrated. We can see that. We are mothers. I see that all the time. You know, they're becoming restless. And even the children in school, today the children in schools, they never thought of protesting. They have never thought of anything like Aragalaya.
Yes.
But now even the younger children in schools, they're thinking, is this the country to which we are born? Do we have rights in this country? Can we feel at home in this country? They have 1,000 questions. And many of them, they can't afford to go abroad anymore. Even children who are doing Cambridge, they can't afford to go abroad.
And even many countries have tightened their immigration laws.
Exactly. And therefore, they get stuck remaining in Sri Lanka. Now, the government needs to understand that. They need to understand that and try to help them. See, the longer you keep the teachers away, right, the children are suffering. And the exam papers not being marked, the children are suffering. I mean, I personally feel, if my children were studying at this time, doing their O-level, and the papers are not marked, how desperate would I become as a mother? So don't think of your own people. Every citizen born to this country has the right to raise their opinion. They have the right to hold a placard wherever they want to. They have that right. They've been given that right by the Constitution. But the important is the government needs to say, I want to hear, because government is also not doing the right thing. If you look at it, our debt was only 71 billion USD.
Yes.
2 years ago, right? And now today it's 103 billion. And now they are also borrowing more and more. And then it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger with the interest. And eventually who has to pay? Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe has done he said it's a good news that we only need to pay back in 2048?
2027 they will be deferred, and then till I think 2048 that we will be able to pay it on compensational or preferential terms.
Yeah, so see, he has to understand that it's the younger generation who has to do that. But the younger generation is looking at the country and seeing nothing is happening in the country. What is the development that is happening? No industry is coming up. We don't see any
there's no innovation.
Exactly. We don't see the growth of the nation, no industrialization.
Because the president's main motive is to create an export-led economy in Sri Lanka instead of a service-based one. But we don't see a drive towards making that happen or making that a reality. Or is it just part of his plan? And do you believe that he requires more time to execute that plan to succession?
No, there is no time for us. Time is running out. The thing is, Sri Lanka desperately needs to develop. We need to get the business sector to our side. The government must work with the business sector. It's very important. When you have such a powerful business sector in Sri Lanka, you need to allow them to come in and be part and parcel of it. Then we have so many people living abroad who are first-class business people, and they are willing to come here. They are willing to be in partnership. Why are we always getting the foreigners to become partners? We need to get our own people to come. Invite them to come, not to resolve the debt issue. No. We need to allow them to come and develop their industries here. They would not want to destroy the natural resources because this is their land. So it's very important that the government understand we are in a desperate situation where we need to show growth now, not later. It's important.
Right. We're having a very engrossing conversation with Dr. Ajantha Perera, who is in our studios this evening on Face to Face. We'll cross over for a quick commercial break. Stay with Face to Face. We will be right back.
Newsfirst, Face to Face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
I'm waking up. I'm waking up.
Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 2, starting 6 July, 8:30 p.m. Only on Sirasa TV. Don't miss it.
If you want to create your life, create it. This is your opportunity to change your destiny. සඳහි දක්ෂිණ ද්‍රවයට ගොඩ පැසූ අතර මේ ඔවුන්ගේ චන්ද්‍ර ගවේෂණයේ පළමු මෙහෙයුමයි. Bring us to Witness Season 4, Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on TV1.
බස්නායක බංගලාවට සාදරයෙන් පිළිගන්නවා. කුඩු හම්බුණා.
මොකක්? ඔය තුවක්කුව තියාගන්නේ තොගේ ඔළුවට. අන්න. ඒකේ පොලිසිය හොයාගෙන. වෙන්න බෑ.
මං කවදාවත් තව මෙහෙම නම් දකින්න හිතුවේ නෑ අබි.
Hello. Pooja, Wami?
ඔයා කොහොමද අපි හිත හදාගෙන අපි අමතක කරලා හිටියේ? ඔයා කොහොමද අපිව දාලා ගියේ? අපි මන් තමයි මේ බංගලාවට එළිය අරන් ආවේ. මං ආදරේට කියන්නේ කුරුම්බියා කියලා. කුරුම්බියා?
නීල පබලෝ අද රාත්‍රී 9ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
සිම්පත හරියට ලියාපදිංචි කරගෙන තියෙන්න ඕන. සමහරව එහෙම දන්නෙත් නැහනේ.
මේ සිම්පත කොයි තරම් වැදගත්ද කියලා මේ දුරකථන පාවිච්චි කරන හැම දෙනාම දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා තමයි මම කියන්නේ.
මැයි වලින් පස්සේ ලොකු ගංවතුර තත්ත්වයක් එන්න නියමිතයි කියලා. කාලකුණ විද්‍යාඥයින් අනතුරු අංගවන පසුබිමක ඔබ කොයි විදිහටද මේ අපේ තෙත්බිම් සම්බන්ධයෙන් දකින්නේ?
කොළඹ නගරයේ තියෙන නාගරික තෙත්බිම් වලින් 21%ක් තියෙන නාගරික තෙත්බිම් වලින් වැසි ජලයෙන් 39%ක් රඳවා ගන්න බව.
දැන් විලත් නගරයේ අපි කටයුතු කරන කට්ටිය දැන් එනවා පරිපාලනය නගරයට. ඔතුමේ දන්නවා හැටි අපි ගත්තොත් අලවටුකොට එහෙම නැත්නම් කිඹුලවල ප්‍රදේශයේ අපිට තියෙනවා රැයට කෑම කඩ. ඉස්සර ඒක තිබ්බේ කොහෙද? කොළඹ. දැන් ගොඩ දෙනෙක් ඒ පැත්තට එන්න පටන් ගන්න. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ට අර පොළ පාට ගතිය. ඒ තියෙන බ්‍රීස් එක කියන්නේ එඟට දැනෙන වෙනස අනිවාර්යෙන් දැනෙනවා.
ජාතික මෙහෙවර සතියේ දිනවල උදෑසන 11ට.
Newsfirst, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
Welcome back to Face. We are in conversation with Dr. Ajantha Perera this evening. Dr. Ajantha, before we went into the commercial break, we were talking about the political aspect of things and how politicians and leaders must ensure that the country's functioning is smooth. And while all that happens, we need to go towards debt restructuring and also create a more cohesive socio-economic platform. When it comes to that particular matter, let's talk about the presidential election. We know it still hasn't been officially announced yet by the National Election Commission. It will be empowered to announce the presidential election, I think, in just over 2 weeks. But there have already been candidates announced. The president, the incumbent president, has virtually announced his candidacy, and there have been some newcomers in the arena as well, in the form of businessmen, entrepreneurs, so on. But Sri Lankans have, since the Aragalaya, asked for a system change. They want to break this vicious cycle, to bring someone in who will lead Sri Lanka in a more virtuous manner, with transparency, with accountability, providing full force of democracy to the people. But if you take all the candidates that we have now, some of them or most of them have tainted track records. And if the people are to choose from one of those candidates, we might end up in a situation like we did in 2022. We do not know. So against such a backdrop, how do the people make an informed decision? We know that the people have called for a fresh mandate. But if the candidates are just old wine in new bottles, how can the people choose someone who is actually committed toward the development of the country?
Yes, I think this is the most important question right now in the country. How do we elect a president, someone who will drive this nation in the correct, direction?
Yes.
Because the most important thing is that we need to take a decision, a firm decision, on hope that there will be a person to whom we can vote, and ensure, and pray that this person will lead the country in the right direction to pay back our debt, but also develop the country. This is the dream of Sri Lanka right now. And everybody is looking for that person. But unfortunately, the election system here in Sri Lanka says that you need to come from a political party. So mostly in the political party, it's the leader of the political party who steps forward and say, I am going to be the presidential candidate. Very rarely, unless it's a coalition, that somebody fresh would come in there.
Yes.
Then we have also another category called independent candidates. Now these independent candidates are people who have been the members of the parliament, but you know they have an interest to also go for the presidency. Now I do not know why they do that. When I looked at the 2019 independent candidates,
which you were also a presidential candidate.
Yes. I came from a political party.
Yes.
But there were 15 candidates who actually came as independent candidates.
Right.
I looked at them, I googled and I looked at them, and do you know that many of them have bad records? They have court cases. They have been involved in bribery and corruption. They have been involved in child abuse. They have even been involved in the Easter attack scenarios. You know, why is that such people come forward to be a presidential candidate when you have such bad records?
Right.
So right now, my greatest fear is whom should the people elect? We don't see anyone. You see, if you look at America, in America, any citizen can become a presidential candidate. You know, you have to be the age of 35, you should have been born in USA, but then you are able to, just like Mr. Obama, you know, they were able to come forward as a candidate. Now, we don't have that here. And even now, one of the things that I did was I went to the Election Commission and I was talking about it. And I asked them this issue as to why they do not allow any person, Sri Lankan, to stand up for the presidency. Right? What they are saying is that the list, you know, the ballot would be too long. The ballot paper would be too long. It would be an extra expenditure. Right? What rubbish is that? People in this country are waiting to elect a person. And therefore, anyone who believes that they can make a difference to our nation, develop this nation, let it grow economically, bring ethnic harmony, let that person come. What's wrong with this country? Why are we blocking people? We are deliberately blocking people from coming by saying either you come from a political party or you come because you were a member of the parliament. Most of the 225 there who have existed also are corrupt. They have bad records. Even when I look at the 2019 list of independent candidates. So my fear and my deep, you know, sadness is that whom are these people going to elect on that particular day of the election? We can't afford to make a mistake. We need to drive this country forwards. We want someone who has all the knowledge in the head, someone with a good track record, someone like a great CEO who comes and says, yes, I'll get the job done. That's what we need. But unfortunately, we are going to go in for elections now with a bunch of jokers, right, who say they will get it done. I know 100% they'll fail because this is not an easy task. The country is in such a mess right now, you know, I don't see any person right now who can do that. So it's as a person who stood up in 2019, I feel extremely sad because even at that time, 2019, I stood up only for one reason, because I knew that others couldn't. And I was right. I mean, I know many people didn't vote for me thinking maybe, what is this woman going to do? You know, woman thing.
Yes.
Okay, but then It's true. After 2 years or 3 years, we had to chase the person away. We can't afford to have another Aragale. So what I think is we need, even within this short time available, we need to change our structures. We need to change our laws. We need to allow more people to come as candidates. It doesn't matter even if 200 people come. But the important is people will choose the right person. The media has to back it up by giving plenty exposure to them, and thereby we can elect the best person, because Sri Lanka longs for the right person. We need that gem.
Right.
Without that gem, we can't make the difference.
But Dr. Perera, be that as it may, we cannot expect major changes to Sri Lanka's political laws or laws governing the National Election Commission, at least not until the presidential election that is impending. So you lead a movement where you have a group of protesters who engage in silent protests every weekend,
yes,
and every now and then at the Liberty Roundabout as well. What sort of aspirations does your group have in terms of creating awareness of who the people should vote for? And eventually, given the current crop, unfortunately, we are left to decide from whoever is going to go to the presidential election from a political party or as independent candidates. That is the status quo, unfortunately. But how will you and your group advocate for the best possible candidate to be selected? What sort of demands will you put forward, and what plans do you have to grow your movement in terms of giving the general public more awareness, more education in terms of choosing the perfect candidate?
I think one of the most important thing right now is economic growth.
Right.
And we have not seen many of the candidates actually putting their manifestos yet.
Okay.
So we need to see the manifestos, right? And they need to be very truthful. You can't just put numbers and say it will be attained, because we know that the most critical and the most important thing right now is the industrialization.
Yes.
We need to let it grow. And then also the small entrepreneurs that we have. We need to pump in money for these people to be able to develop their businesses well. And then, you know, and there's a good majority of people who are actually traveling abroad right now. Let them go. Let them go and find their prospectus there. It's okay. But the important is that we need to find a person who is able, who has the track record of being a good businessman.
Right.
Because the businessman would never want to fail. You know, they would all do, the very best thing is to be able to earn the very best that we can't afford to be also taking debt, because debt has to come to a halt. The other thing is, we do not want a person who creates more beggars in the country. At the moment, all what I see is people being given rice, people being given land, people being given money in order to please them. A person we need as the president of this country is who is not willing to do all that rubbish. Because the reason being, what is the purpose of giving people something so that they can eat for today? What they're longing for is for them to have a job. You know, train people, somebody who has in their mind a way forward in developing the country by using the human resources that we have. We need to do that. Then we don't need to take the money from those who are outside. It's not about them coming, you know, people living abroad, they don't need to come to Sri Lanka and spend their money and try to sort out the debt. That's not what we want. We want them to train our people, develop partnerships so our people can earn some money. That's very, very important.
So, Dr. Perera, you mentioned that a businessman should come to the fore and run the country. And in 2019, a similar, well, regardless of whether it's a businessman or not, in 2019, a sentiment came up among Sri Lankan society that we need someone who is not a career politician, someone who is not corrupt, who has not been in this vicious cycle, and that person must come in and lead the country towards development. But we saw how that panned out. And again, this time around, if we do appoint a businessman or elect a businessman. We know in business the primary objective is profit maximization. And sometimes if a businessman or someone who is business minded is appointed as the president, we might sometimes be ignoring the democratic aspect, the rights and freedoms of the people, because there will be an ultimate ambition of profit maximization. And you said that a businessman does not like to fail. And if a businessman does not like to fail, he might not take the risks that are required to be taken in Sri Lanka's journey towards development. So how would you, if someone posed you that question, how would you rebut or counter that argument?
The key to success is not only his performance or his cabinet's performance or the parliamentary performance. Important is the monitoring. Sri Lanka lacks that. We are in debt not because of anything else, but because we have misused the money that has come to the country. Corruption, bribery at the highest. And therefore, it's very important that the opposition plays a big role. I think in the parliament, the most important component in the parliament, more than the government side, is the opposition. The opposition should has the task to monitor the whole thing. We have failed in that. You know, we have not actually monitored. Look at the amount of funds that have come into Sri Lanka over the last so many years. And every ministry, right? The ministries have been misusing. Not only the ministers, but also the government servants. They have misused the money. And therefore, we are in this mess. So therefore, the most important thing is the monitoring aspect should be, and the right to recall. The moment you see someone misbehaving, you recall them. You get them back. You can't be in the parliament if you are misbehaving. And this should be very, very, and I'm very happy with the judicial system that is working out, giving, you know, very important decisions. And this is what we need to go. The judicial system, the parliamentary, the executive, and the people at large, working together, pushing the country in the right direction. You see, this is what we want. But when we have someone who believes in justice seated on the best chair, right? We need someone who cares about justice. We lack justice in Sri Lanka. You know, so many things have happened in this country because we allowed it to go haywire. But if we work together, if we have someone good, if you have a good team around him, and if you have a good opposition, and if the people are interested in developing the country and say, go, 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 and we work together, I think it will happen. You see, I see Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe constantly telling the opposition, come and work with me. But the opposition doesn't go because they don't trust him. So you need a person whom the country can trust. This is very important. Another thing I'm very disappointed is, okay, good, Sinhala Buddhists are the majority in this country. It's true. It has been and maybe it will be. But what about the Muslim community? What about the Tamil community? Why can't somebody from that community become the president in this country? What is stopping them from becoming the president? I mean, what we want is a good leader. Singapore has done that, America has done that, and they all have succeeded. You see, we need to take away our discriminations. Aragalaya was about that. Aragalaya was about, we don't think about religion bringing differences between us. We don't want ethnicity to bring any differences between us. What you see at the Liberty Plaza, what you see at Timbirigasaya is unity among ethnicity, unity among class, unity among people coming from all different backgrounds. This is what we are trying to create. So this is what we are promoting more than anything else, that we are together. When one group suffers, everyone suffers. We need to understand that, you know, the country should be like a body of a human being. When the toes suffer, the body suffers. When the hand suffers, the body suffers. When your knee is suffering, the whole body suffers. We need to understand, if we don't bring that unity among the people of this country, when the head is right, everything will move in unison. This is the most important. So we need a good head. And I'm disappointed up to now with those who have come forward to be elected.
So your movement is essentially aimed at educating the masses on how they can work together in a united sense to make the best possible decisions for
and
the
then
country.
also what we are doing every Thursday and Sunday, we basically is we stand there holding a placard. We are telling the people, you have the right to do that. Nobody can push you away. You have the right to raise your opinion. Because this country is of the people, not, you can't be pushed around. Nobody can come and, throw some water at you and say, go away from here. You are not,
you can't be bullied.
You can't be, they even sent thugs to bully us, but we didn't, we didn't change. We are still there. So, some of the good lessons what you're teaching is be strong about what you believe in. Don't pretend to be someone, but be strong and honest about what you believe in. Raise your opinion, bring about changes, but always consider the other person better than yourself, because call anyone that, I always tell the people, whatever the problems that you have, you come and stand next to us. With a board.
You are with us.
And you are with us. And we are not trying to gather a movement to topple the government. That's not our intention.
Cause anarchy.
We really want to work with the government. We have no anger with the government. But whenever the president or one of the parliamentarians says something which will upset the people, we stand there on their behalf and we raise our opinion and we try to bring about a change.
Right. My interlocutor this evening was Dr. Ajantha Perera, who is a social activist, environmentalist, and also a presidential candidate at the 2019 presidential election. We discussed many things from Sri Lanka's environmental sustainability to choosing the best candidate at the upcoming election, and also many things regarding Sri Lanka's socio-economic realm, how Sri Lanka can reach racial harmony and unity as a whole. Thank you very much, Dr. Perera, for joining me this evening. And that's the way it was on Face to Face this evening. Take care, and we will see you soon.